Once a player understands defensive side positioning and knows how to take away time and space, then they can decide whether to move forward and put instant pressure on the puck carrier or back off by being patient and try to contain the puck carrier. Pressure checking is when a defensive player attacks the puck carrier, applying contact through a stick check or body check. The defensive player should always pressure when the opponent is in a dangerous scoring area, such as the front of the net or the slot. Pressure should also be applied if the opponent has their back facing you and/or has poor puck possession. Anytime that the defensive team has a greater number of supporting players, numerical superiority, or a man advantage, for that situation there should be pressure. Also, if the defensive player has steered or angled the opponent into a critical area and the opponent is isolated, then pressure should be applied. If a team is behind late in the game, then they must play aggressively and pressure the opponent wherever they can. And finally, on the penalty kill, the new way to play is not to stand still in a box, but to pressure through steering and angling while using the sticks to block the passing lanes. If the puck carrier's back is turned and does not have good puck control, then pressure quickly by closing the gap. Use one hand on the stick to force or influence the opponent, and two hands on the stick to control. We control the opponent by spinning, rolling, blocking, or picking. While doing this, maintain defensive side positioning and pin the opponent or maintain hip control, and let a team worry about picking up the loose puck. The defensive player should hold the pin check for a couple of seconds and release the opponent while again maintaining this defensive side positioning. Containment or patient checking is when a defensive player gives up ice to play the situation. An example would be a 2-on-1 situation where the player must back up to defend. The definition of contained checking is when the defensive player attempts to control the puck carrier's decisions and movements without attacking directly. When should a player decide to use the contain checking method? Whenever there is no immediate scoring threat, and the defender has not had enough time to establish a good gap control, they should contain. The defensive player may read that the opponent has good puck possession with their head up, and that there is no other teammate supporting, or even an outnumbered situation like a 2-on-1. Also, if the puck carrier is coming directly at the defensive player with speed, then again, the player should contain check. It also could be a team strategy to play a contain or trap-like system. You may want to use a contain method to protect a lead. We've seen in the NHL that the Dallas Stars and the New Jersey Devils have incorporated this trap or contain-like system in order to win the game. How does a player contain check? The defensive player may choose to deflect, steer, give up ice, such as a 1-on-1, or cut the gap in half. Cutting the gap in half is usually done when playing an opponent out of the corner. If the puck carrier is facing the defensive player and has good puck control, then move quickly towards the puck carrier on an angle to close the gap, but then stop halfway using a 1-foot snowplow to square up and retreat backwards to the net playing a 1-on-1. The defensive player should play this like an open ice 1-on-1 with one hand on the stick and the free hand at the puck carrier's chest. The poke check should be the first option, and then the stick between the legs to steer the second option. As the puck carrier gets closer to the net, two hands may be needed on the stick for battling, and if the puck carrier passes the puck, the defensive player should finish the check. If this is not possible, then the defensive player should maintain at least good defensive side positioning on the player who just passed the puck, stopping a give-and-go situation. The pressure and contain risk-taking decision is determined by many factors. The first is the coach's philosophy. The coach may want you to play with more pressure or less pressure. Also, the game situation is something that needs to be considered. Whether your team is leading or trailing. If you're trailing, you're definitely going to need to put more pressure on to get back into the game. Also during the game, which zone are you checking in? If you're checking in your own zone or in front of the net, definitely there's going to be pressure. But in the offensive zone, there doesn't have to be as much pressure. The available number of supporting players is something that determines whether you pressure or contain. The opponent's strengths and weaknesses. For example, if the other team is very fast and scores when giving a good opportunity, then you do not want to take too many risks, like pinching, for example, giving the other team an easy 2-on-1. Also, then we should consider your own team's strengths and weaknesses. For example, if your team has great skating agility, then they can play with more pressure and a tighter gap control. If they're weaker at their skating, then they can't play with that much pressure. They have to play more of a contained situation. Pressure and contain terms. The coach could use these terms by saying pressure or patience, pressure or contain, pressure or restraint. The coach may say tight gap or loose gap, close gap or giving up ice. To conclude this video and preview where we are going in the next two videos, look at this chart. This chart lists these defensive positioning techniques with no contact given, leading to stick contact, and then if needed, body contact. So, no contact, to stick contact, to body contact. The third video will be stick contact, and the fourth video, body contact.